got the lowdown from Kristen Tate.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't have any confirmation, but, even the migrants who are getting flown to Sacramento on these private planes, they have no idea who's paid for their tickets to get there. But there's wide speculation that this is being coordinated from Ron DeSantis in Florida. And this would not be the first time he's done something like this. As you know, we talked a few months back about how he sent a bunch of migrants up to Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. This is why Ron DeSantis is gaining such a following and such a great, strong fan base here in the United States, because he's all about action. Trump, he's a lot about talking and bombastic jargon, but what a lot of conservatives, were left with after his presidency was yearning for more action and follow through on that talk. Whereas Ron DeSantis, he's kind of the opposite. He doesn't say a whole lot unless he's actually done it. So I would not put it past Ron DeSantis to do this, to send a message about illegal immigration and to kind of show the voters that he's someone who's willing to take drastic action and hold these people who live in these so-called sanctuary cities and blue states to their word. Hey, if you say you're a sanctuary state, you're a sanctuary city, here you go. Here are the migrants. Why are you complaining?
We'll come back to the presidential race in a moment, but I think you've kind of answered my question there in a way. I was wondering why California, because California has its own problems with the Mexican border, of course, in Southern California. But previously sending them up to Martha's Vineyard, the rich playground of the Democrat elite in the Northeast, that made sense. But why Sacramento? Is it because the Californian capital has declared itself a sanctuary city?
Yes, and in fact, the entire state of California is a sanctuary state. There's also kind of this feud going on between Gavin Newsom, who's the governor of California, and Ron DeSantis, who's, of course, the governor of Florida. And we see how the Florida model stacks up against the California model. California is in absolute shambles. The economy is suffering. Americans are fleeing that state, as are jobs and companies, while Florida is just booming. So, this could be Ron DeSantis kind of taking a jab at Gavin Newsom. But of course, it's also to send a message about illegal immigration and holding these sanctuary state people to their word.
Exactly. You want to be a sanctuary state? Here's some people. Now, let's get to the presidential contest. Of course, Mike Pence, the former Veep to Donald Trump, has declared, we haven't heard from him yet, but he's going to run. The critical question here, Kristen, is whether this further splits the non-Trump vote and therefore makes it easier for Trump to win the nomination, or whether Pence and his critique of Donald Trump, especially for not accepting the election result, whether that'll help diminish the former president.
This is only good news for Trump. The more people who jump into this race who are not Ron DeSantis, the better for him. It splits the non-Trump vote. But, I don't suspect this will have a particularly large impact in the race. There really is no constituency for Mike Pence. I'm pretty plugged in the right of center world here in the United States. And I don't know anybody who's just, so excited about a Mike Pence presidency and candidacy. He really doesn't have those rabid supporters the way Donald Trump does and the way Ron DeSantis is getting. So I don't suspect that this will be a particularly successful bid. All it will kind of do is maybe take a few points away from Ron DeSantis by splitting up that non-Trump vote.
Okay, talk about good news for Trump and the Republicans generally, I suppose. When you talk about the concerns about Joe Biden's mental capacity, his ability to not only last this term, but to serve as president for another 4 years after that, you couldn't have it confirmed, those worries confirmed any more dramatically than this event on the weekend. This is such a worry, Kristen. Anyone can fall over, but he is really doddering around everywhere so very carefully. Interesting to see how little the media makes of this and compare it to how much of a fuss they made out of Donald Trump, carefully walking down a ramp when he was president.
Oh, they're all such hypocrites, Chris. But I will say that behind the scenes, Democrats are very concerned about this. Nearly every left-winger that I speak to, even the most, loyal Joe Biden supporters are very worried about his mental health. And people are starting to wonder if Kamala Harris is really, the best running mate for him, because her polls are in the toilet. She's never been particularly popular, even among Democrats. She was a complete dud in the Democratic primary. And I think there are lots of voters out there, especially independents, who are saying this guy does not seem like he is going to last for the next 4 to 6 years. And if he goes, we are stuck with Kamala Harris. And that is a terrifying prospect to many Americans. So even though the media is saying, oh, this is no big deal, everyone trips and falls, they are worried about this. This is a serious problem. And for the first time after that last fall, because that was so bad and the media really couldn't ignore it, I'm starting to hear people talk about his mental health in a way that they were not before.
As you know, I've always said he can't run. I just can't see that man running as president because he's battling to stand upright. But as you say, more important than ever to have a very, very authentic, plausible and trustworthy vice president. We don't have that now, and maybe they should look at that before the election comes around in terms of the nominees. Thanks so much for joining us again, Kristen. Great to talk.